Hey there! So I ran a poll on Twitter and this was the most voted story, so let's do this. Hey, my name is Wys and I'm just another wannabe on this site who enjoys drawing and talking. To cut to the point, this story is about my most toxic friend. Someone who I was friends with for nearly 4 years and I considered almost like my sister. This was an online friendship, so a lot of the interactions I had with them was through text and voice chat, but I still considered them one of my best friends. The backstory for this will literally take me an hour and a half to go through, so I'm going to start this story a year before the friendship ended, when I started dating someone. We'll call this person D. D and I had been good friends for a while and started dating at around April of that year. It all seemed well and good until I opened up to my friends about something that I'd only told D. And that was, for about 6 months, I had been suffering from an eating disorder. I don't want to go into too many details about it because that is a story for a different day, but to make a long story short, I kept it from my friends because I was afraid of disappointing them. Let me preface this by saying, I am fully aware this was not a rational way of thinking, but no one who is in an eating disorder is thinking rationally. Please keep that in mind. That was just my mindset. I told D because at the time I told him, I didn't hold myself to the same standards as I did with my best friends. I told him before we started dating, and when we started dating, that's when I told my friends. So cut to when I told everyone. I was scared, but for the most part, they were supportive. Understandably hurt that they didn't know what was going on, but still supportive that I was getting help. This friend was not. They considered my not telling them as me being disloyal to my friends, no matter how many times I explained it, that it had nothing to do with loyalty. This led me into a relapse from the stress, and D told them this. This would lead into a 3-day period of nothing but anxiety and stress where we tried to talk it over. Eventually, we just decided to let it go and try to be friends again. Alright, misunderstandings happen. But that's when I started noticing the change. I have a best friend in this equation. We will call her J. J would usually act as a middleman in disagreements because they were the most level-headed and pretty good at staying neutral. Well, J also lets people come to vent to them a lot, and this friend would start going to J almost once a week to complain about me. It started with very small things, like me saying something they didn't like in a call, or me talking about some other artist on a stream, or me spending more time with certain people. But it would eventually graduate into the smallest thing I did being a slight against them. This went on for literally months, and Jay kept me updated because, once again, they are my best friend, and did not want me blindsided if something blew up. The only situation of note in this period I can think of is when they tried to come to me about a drama that I genuinely didn't want to hear about. It was between them and one of our friends' boyfriends, and I thought it was petty and stupid. During this period of time, I was trying to avoid as much drama and stress as I could because I had gotten stress sick at least 8 times in the last 4 months and needed to take care of myself, something I never do. I hear from Jay that night when I told this friend that I didn't want to hear about the petty drama, that they had gone to Jay complaining how I wasn't being supportive. Okay. Somewhere in between August and November of that year, we ended up having a group talk to let out some issues. Well, what was supposed to be a group talk turned into an intervention for me. To add some context, I was acting very distant with the group. Part of it was I was busy with work, part of it was I was just hanging out with other people and my boyfriend, and part of it was stuff happening in my personal life that I'd rather not get into right now. Different story for a different day. But the bottom line is, I was acting distant, and I was snapping rather easily, and for that, I take full responsibility. What was really messed up about this intervention is when this friend got their turn to speak and say what their problem was with me. I want you to keep in mind, I sat there for about an hour and a half, listening to what people had to say, answering to my faults, and apologizing for what I was doing wrong, explaining the reasons why these things were happening, why I might have been acting a certain way, but still accepting that I was doing something wrong and apologizing for it. Then it was their turn to speak. Now, they pretty much repeated a lot of the points that others said. I was acting distant, I wasn't being a good friend, I was acting selfish. Then it divulged into how I shouldn't defend myself against what they had to say. Even though I wasn't defending myself, I was giving my reasoning. I was giving an explanation. I was still saying, yeah, I did wrong, but I feel like you guys should know what was going on at the time. And then they said one of the cruelest things I think anybody has ever said to me. They said, and I quote, "You make your disorder sound like it's worse than others' problems. I could eat the wrong thing and die. All you will do is throw up." This friend had an intestinal disorder that prevented them from eating certain grains and seeds because they could get stuck and cause an infection. Yes, this is a scary condition. Manageable, but scary, and I understand that. I'm not trying to minimize their condition because it still can be serious. But what I don't understand is comparing something like a physical health disorder to a mental disorder, like it's a contest to see who has it worse. I wasn't upset that they were saying I was on a high horse about my eating disorder. I was hurt that they wrote it off like it was nothing when telling my friends this was one of the scariest things I'd ever done. I was petrified about how they would respond, and all this person did was confirm my fears. Here's where, again, it gets a little messy, and I will have to make another story of this just to explain this background. But to put it simply, I wasn't the first friend they targeted to be angry at all the time. They had done this before with at least 5 other people in the group, and almost ripped our ties with a few of them. And in the intervention, when it was my turn to speak and address issues, I said this. I said that I felt like this person was nitpicking everything I did as a slight against them, and do you know what they did? They ran to Jay and told them they felt attacked. They felt attacked after I sat there for an hour and a half, answering to what I did wrong. But in their mind, I was still wrong for defending myself. Things were still really rocky going into the new year, and by that point, most of us knew what was going on and were tired of this cycle with this person. I know some of you are probably thinking, well, if they brought you into a talk to discuss their problems with you, why couldn't you do the same? Because they would shut down. They would cry to Jay, and it went nowhere. So this person found out about our gripes with them, and took us venting our frustrations about not being able to talk this out with them without it blowing up into a giant circus, as us talking shit about them and wanting to kick them out of our group. And of course, being as impulsive as they are, left a scathing message in the group chat calling myself and 2 others out by name and then leaving. Now here is where I will admit I was wrong and totally let my anger take hold of me. I at least want to say it was like 4 a.m. when this happened. I was sleep deprived. Now 2 of my best friends, including Jay, were in full panic mode because of this person. So I slid into their DMs and proceeded to chew them out in the most harsh way I could think of. And after some back and forth, with them stubbornly wanting the last word, I basically told them not to screw over their next friend group and blocked them. Was that mean? Hell yeah, it was, and something I wouldn't normally do. Do I regret it though? No, not really. Because this person tore nearly the entire group apart, and was now just a toxic weed waiting to be pruned away so it didn't infect us anymore. But no, it doesn't end there, because then we discussed what was said behind the scenes. And surprise, surprise, it was about me. Remember how I said the eating disorder thing was one of the cruelest things this person has ever said to me? Well, here's the second most terrible thing. And I didn't even know about it until after the fact. I am friends with some very talented and creative artists, and while art is my biggest passion, it is also one of my biggest insecurities. I am way too critical of my own work, and I get very insecure about it, hence why I am always welcome to people critiquing my work so I can improve. I beg for it. This friend was one of my biggest motivators for the last 4 years. I met this person when I was in high school. This person would constantly tell me how I was improving, how beautiful my art was. And I know this sounds like I just liked having someone stroke my ego, but I really looked up to them as an artist. I thought their art was beautiful. And for them to tell me that they loved my work meant a lot to me. But I come to find out they were lying to me for God knows how long. Because they went to another mutual friend of ours and said, and I quote, "Wys hasn't improved her art in 3 years." I could refute this very obvious lie, but that isn't the point of me bringing this up. This was someone who kept pushing me to keep going and encouraging me, only for me to find out they were spitting in my face whenever they told me I was improving. It made me wonder how many times they were looking where they could put the knife in my back. And that was the worst thing I think I realized about them. That was when it became clear that they were a jealous and vindictive, angry person who just wanted people around them to praise them and put others down and kick people out who they didn't deem adequate. Someone I am happy to say is no longer in my life. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I hope I didn't ramble too much. If you'd like me to go more in detail to the background of this story and the other foolishness this person did, just let me know and I will try my best. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you in my next one. Bye!